I want you to try something for me right now. Wherever you are, just stop for a second and close your eyes. Picture your workspace.
Okay.
Maybe you're at a nice desk, maybe a glass-walled meeting room, maybe you're in the driver's seat of a car. Got it.
Got it.
Okay. Now, erase that image completely. Instead, I want you to imagine your office is a cramped, dark aluminum tube.
Mm-hmm.
There are no windows. It smells like chemicals. The only way in or out is this small oval hole, barely wide enough for your shoulders. You are crawling on your hands and knees into the belly of a massive machine.
Okay.
And not just any machine, a commercial airliner. And you aren't in the cabin where the passengers get their pretzels. You are crawling inside the wing. You are inside the fuel tank.
That is a genuinely terrifying visualization to start with. My heart rate, I think, actually went up just listening to that.
Right.
But, for thousands of aviation maintenance technicians, that isn't a nightmare scenario. That's just Tuesday morning.
Exactly. And that is where we're going today. We are doing a deep dive into the high-stakes, claustrophobic world of aviation MRO maintenance, repair, and overhaul.
Yeah.
But we aren't talking about the glamorous stuff. We're not talking painting the livery or upgrading first-class seats. We're looking at the invisible dangers lurking in those confined spaces. And specifically, a piece of engineering designed to keep the people working in them from, well, literally blowing up.
It really is a side of aviation that most travelers never even consider.
Not at all.
You see the plane at the gate, you worry about your legroom or if there's space in the overhead bin for your carry-on. You don't think about the technician who was physically inside the fuel tank 3 hours ago, scrubbing out residue so you could fly safely.
And that's the so what here right off the bat. This isn't just about being uncomfortable or, having a dirty job. The source material makes it incredibly clear. We are talking about a confined space nightmare. We're talking flammable vapors, toxic dust, invisible hazards. It's the difference between a routine repair and a catastrophic headline.
Or a quiet tragedy. It's not always the explosion that gets you. Sometimes it's the long-term exposure to things that simply shouldn't be in your lungs.
Right. And the solution we're analyzing today, the star of the show, really, is the Ramfan EB7500WT aircraft fuel tank ventilation kit.
That's a mouthful.
It is, and I know ventilation kit sounds like something you buy at a hardware store for your bathroom.
Right, for a Reno.
But as I started reading through the specs and the use cases here, I realized this is absolutely not a bathroom fan.
No, far from it. It's like comparing a bicycle to a tank.
It's framed in the documents as a lifeline.
That is the perfect word for it, a lifeline. The mission of this deep dive isn't just to talk about a fan. That would be pretty dry. We want to uncover how this specific piece of engineering keeps planes flying and ensures crews go home to their families.
Yeah.
And for the procurement officers and safety managers listening, why this is a critical asset, not just a line item on a spreadsheet.
So let's get into the reality of the job first. MRO. There was a line in the research that actually made me laugh out loud, even though the context is, well, deadly serious.
Yeah.
It said, listen, when you send a technician into a fuel tank, you're not playing with paper clips.
It's a fantastic line because it completely strips away the corporate euphemisms. I mean, in HR terms or in a quarterly report, it's just called maintenance. It sounds so benign.
Right.
In reality, you're dealing with volatile organic compounds, VOCs.
Yeah.
You're dealing with hostile environments.
And hazardous atmospheres. That term pops up a lot in the OSHA docs and the technical sheets. Break that down for us. What does a hazardous atmosphere actually look like inside a 737 wing?
Well, think about jet fuel, Jet A. Even when you drain the tank, you can't get every single drop out.
No.
There are residuals, puddles in the baffles. And those evaporate, so you have these heavy vapors just sitting in the tank.
Heavier than air, you mean?
Usually, yes. So they sink to the bottom, right where the technician is crawling. And these vapors are two things. First, they are toxic to the central nervous system. They make you dizzy, disoriented, eventually unconscious.
And second?
And second, and more critically for this discussion, they are flammable.
So you have a confined metal box filled with explosive gas.
Exactly. Before anyone can enter that tank to inspect a crack or clean a sensor, you have to scrub the air. You have to physically force the contaminants out and replace them with breathable air.
Okay, so let me play devil's advocate here.
Go for it.
Why can't I just open the access hatch and, I don't know, put a big box fan in the opening? Or just wait for it to air out?
That is what we call the garage fan fallacy. And honestly, it's terrifying how common that mindset used to be in the early days of the industry.
The garage fan fallacy, I like that.
It's the temptation to grab whatever air mover is lying around the hangar, maybe a standard industrial blower you use to dry a wet floor and just point it at the fuel tank.
The logic being air is air, right? As long as it's moving, we're good.
Precisely. And the source material vehemently disagrees with that.
I'm guessing.
Here's the physics of why that's a death wish. Standard fans have electric motors. Motors have brushes, or they have components that can overheat. They spark.
Okay.
Even a tiny microscopic spark from a motor startup. If you introduce that into an environment where the fuel-air mixture is within the explosive limits...
You basically built a jet engine.
A bomb.
Yeah.
You've built a bomb.
Yeah.
And there's another factor people forget. Static electricity.
Static, like rubbing a balloon on your hair.
Exactly like that.
Yeah.
But on an industrial scale, moving air creates friction against the ducting. Friction generates static charge. If you use a cheap plastic duct or a standard fan housing that isn't grounded, you can build up a significant static charge on the equipment. All it takes is one discharge snap against the metal wing of the aircraft.
And boom.
Game over. And this is where the Ramfan EB7500WT differentiates itself. The source material is incredibly specific on this. This is not a repurposed floor dryer. It is engineered specifically for aircraft fuel tank environments.
It's certified explosion-proof.
Yes.
I want to drill down on that term explosion-proof, because in marketing, people throw around words like military grade or heavy duty, and they mean nothing.
Right.
Does explosion-proof actually mean something in an engineering sense?
It absolutely does. It's a highly regulated term. It means the equipment is designed so that if an explosion were to happen inside the motor housing, it would be contained.
Okay.
It wouldn't propagate to the outside atmosphere.
Okay.
But more importantly, for this unit, it's about being intrinsically safe.
Which means...
It means limiting the energy available to cause ignition in the first place.
Yeah.
The Ramfan unit uses specific materials. The housing isn't just cheap plastic. It's a conductive polymer or specialized metal that allows static to drain away safely to the ground. It's bonded and grounded.
Bonded and grounded. That sounds like a law firm.
It does, doesn't it? But in this context, it means the entire system, the fan, the ducting, the couplers, forms a continuous electrical path to the earth. So static literally cannot build up. It just drains away instantly.
That's a huge distinction. So let's look at the Ramfan EB7500WT specifically. We've established it doesn't spark, but does it actually move air? Because I've seen safety gear that is so safe, it's practically useless.
That's always the balance, isn't it? Safety versus performance. But the specs here are pretty impressive. In ventilation, you have two main metrics. Airflow, which is measured in CFM, or cubic feet per minute.
Okay, CFM is volume. That's easy enough.
Right. Volume is how much air you move. But static pressure is how hard you can push that air. And this is crucial for aviation.
Why is that more important here than in, say, a warehouse?
Because you aren't just blowing air into an open room, you're pushing it through 25 feet of ducting, maybe around a 90-degree bend, into a tiny access hole, and then through the complex maze of baffles inside a wing tank.
That creates resistance.
A ton of it. A cheap fan might have high CFM in open air, but as soon as you attach a duct, the airflow just dies. It chokes.
It's like trying to breathe through a coffee stirrer.
Exactly. The EB7500WT is designed with high static pressure capabilities. It pushes through that resistance to ensure the air actually turns over, even in the deep recesses of the tank.
So it's about power and speed. You need to exchange the air rapidly to make it safe for human entry.
Speed is safety here. If the air isn't moving fast enough, the heavy vapors settle in the corners. You might get a clean reading at the hatch with your meter, but the guy crawling 10 feet back is breathing fumes.
Wow.
This fan prevents that.
And looking at the design philosophy mentioned in the notes, it seems like they really thought about the physical abuse these things take. I mean, an aircraft hangar isn't a clean room.
Yeah, not at all. It's a heavy industrial zone.
Yeah.
That's a crucial point. If you've ever been on a hangar floor, things get dropped. They get dragged. Forklifts drive over cables.
It's rough.
It is. The sources highlight that the unit is modular and rugged.
They mentioned stainless couplers.
Which implies durability. Plastic cracks. Aluminum dents. Stainless steel holds up. But the really smart engineering choice here, the one that caught my eye, is the field replaceable components.
Why is that such a big deal? Isn't that standard?
Not as much as you'd think. Imagine the scenario. You're in the middle of a check on a Boeing 777. The clock is ticking. You accidentally drop a wrench and crack a coupler on your ventilation unit.
Okay.
If that unit is a sealed black box design, you have to ship it back to the manufacturer for repair.
And you're down for what? Couple of weeks?
Or more. And you can't safely enter the tank without it, so the maintenance just stops. With field-replaceable components, you go to the parts cage, grab a new coupler, swap it out in 10 minutes, and you're back to work.
It respects the reality of the workflow. It assumes things will break and gives you a way out.
Exactly. It acknowledges that the hangar is a tough environment.
And portability seems to be a factor, too. It's lightweight enough for rapid deployment.
Crucial. Technicians have to lug these things up scaffolding, onto wings, into tight spaces. If it weighs 100 pounds, they won't use it.
Or they'll rig something up that's less safe.
Precisely. It has to be heavy-duty enough to last, but light enough to actually be carried by one person.
Let's pivot. We've established this thing as a beast of engineering, and it keeps people from blowing up. That's the safety argument. But I want to talk about the money.
Ah, yes. The economics of safety. The favorite topic of any CFO.
Because at the end of the day, someone has to sign the check. And safety is a great moral argument, but saving money is usually what gets the purchase order approved.
Unfortunately true. But here, the two are perfectly aligned. We need to introduce a concept called time to safe entry.
Time to safe entry. Break that down for the non-accountants among us.
It's simple math. The clock starts when the plane rolls into the hangar. You cannot send a human into that tank until the air quality monitor says it's safe.
Right.
The LEL, or explosive limit, has to be effectively 0. Oxygen levels have to be normal.
And if you're using a weak fan...
You are waiting. You are just watching a gauge. It could take hours for a large tank to off-gas sufficiently with a standard blower.
And while you're waiting, that highly paid technician is just standing there drinking coffee.
And the plane, which is a revenue-generating asset worth hundreds of millions of dollars, is sitting there doing nothing. Not flying passengers, not moving cargo.
So the Ramfan EB7500WT, with that high static pressure we talked about, clears the air faster.
Drastically faster. It shrinks that time to safe entry. If you can cut that wait time from, say, 4 hours down to 1 hour, you've just gained 3 hours of maintenance time.
Multiply that by the crew size, the hourly rate.
And the cost of the AOG aircraft on ground? In commercial aviation, an AOG situation can cost tens of thousands of dollars per hour.
Wow. So the fan can pay for itself in the first use, essentially.
Easily. Investing in a high-performance ventilation kit isn't a safety expense. It's an operational efficiency tool. It reduces overtime and increases fleet availability.
And then there's the risk management side. The sources mention regulatory risk.
This connects to the bigger picture of liability. Auditors, OSHA, the FAA, they love paperwork. They want to see that you have a consistent, reliable method for ventilating confined spaces.
So having a certified, explosion-proof kit like this helps with the clipboard warriors.
It proves due diligence. If you have an accident and you were using a Home Depot fan, you were negligent. If you were using a certified Ramfan kit, you were following best practices. It reduces the risk of citations.
And obviously it reduces the risk of the accident itself.
Of course, and accidents are incredibly expensive.
I'd imagine.
Beyond the tragic human costs, yes. Insurance claims, medical costs, emergency response, AGZMAT cleanup, the investigation that shuts down your shop for weeks. Preventing one accident pays for 1,000 fans.
That makes total sense. There's also a note here about long-term value and lower life cycle costs. That's just corporate speak for it lasts a long time, right?
Yeah, basically. But think about the environment again. Chemical vapors, solvents, jet fuel, that stuff eats away at plastic and rubber. If you buy a cheap unit, the seals degrade, the casing cracks, you replace it every 6 months.
Whereas the Ramfan is built to resist the chemicals it's venting.
Exactly. Fewer capital purchases over a 5-year period.
Okay, so we know what to buy. Ramfan EB7500WT. But the sources also make a big deal about where to buy it. They specifically mention a supplier called PE Energy.
This is an often overlooked part of the puzzle, the supply chain. In heavy industry, you can't just click buy now on Amazon and hope for the best.
Right. And PE Energy seems to position themselves as a specialized partner, not just a storefront.
Correct. One thing that stood out to me was the mention of wholesale benefits and scale.
Meaning, if I'm a major airline, let's say a Delta or a United, and I need 50 of these for hubs all over the country.
PE Energy can handle that scale. They offer competitive pricing for fleet buys. But what's more interesting to me is the kitting.
Kitting? Explain that. Is that like bundling?
It is, but it's strategic. A ventilation system isn't just the fan. It's the ducting, the storage canister, the conductive couplers, maybe a specific adapter for a 737 versus an Airbus A320.
Buying those all separately sounds like a procurement nightmare.
It is. You've got 5 different SKUs, 5 different shipping dates. PE Energy offers to kit this. They bundle everything you need for a specific job into a single purchase order.
One box, one invoice.
It simplifies the bureaucracy immensely. But the technical support is where the real value adds up. The source mentions that it's not one size fits all. For example, they advise on voltage.
Yeah, I saw that. They have a 230V variant. Why does that matter?
Well, imagine you are a maintenance repair organization in Germany or Singapore, or even a heavy industrial site in the U.S. running on high voltage lines.
Yeah.
You can't plug a standard 110V American plug into the wall.
You'd fry it.
Or it just wouldn't fit. You need the 230V version. PE Energy stocks both. They help you match the product to your facility's infrastructure so you don't end up with a pallet of expensive fans you can't even plug in.
That's the kind of mistake that gets someone fired.
It happens more often than you'd think. And they mention training, too, which is important because if you've never used explosion-proof gear, there are protocols.
Like checking that grounding bond we talked about earlier.
Exactly. You don't want to hand a sophisticated tool to a team that doesn't know how to maintain it. On-site tech support prevents user error.
And finally, logistics, speed,
domestic stock, and expedited freight options. Again, going back to the cost of downtime.
The AOG scenario.
If a plane is stuck on the ground in Miami because your ventilation unit died, you cannot wait 6 weeks for a replacement to ship from a factory in Taiwan. You need it tomorrow morning.
Grounded assets cost real money. That phrase keeps coming back.
It really underscores that speed is part of the product. The availability of the safety tool is just as critical as the tool itself.
So let's bring this all together. We've looked at the terrifying reality of the fuel tank, the vapors, the confined space. We've looked at the solution, the Ramfan EB7500WT, this explosion-proof, static, dissipating beast. And we've looked at the business case saving time, staying compliant, and working with a partner like PE Energy to streamline the process.
It's a compelling package. It transforms a ventilation fan from a commodity, something you just buy and forget, into a strategic asset.
It really does. It's a safety lifeline, a compliance tool, and a productivity booster all rolled into one.
And if we can pause for a second, I think it's important to return to the human element we started with.
Person in the tank.
Yes. We talk about ROI and regulatory risk, and those are important for the business. We talk about static pressure and conductive polymers. But ultimately, this engineering exists for one reason.
So that a human being, a father, a mother, a son, a daughter, can do a necessary, dangerous job and come out safely.
Precisely. It allows them to do the work that lets the rest of us fly to weddings and meetings and vacations. They are the invisible workforce.
If you are listening to this and you are in procurement or safety management or you run an MRO shop, checking the spec sheet isn't just a box to tick on a form.
No, it's a moral imperative. You are deciding what level of protection you are providing for your people.
So if that's you, the sources suggest your next step is pretty clear. You need to stop rolling the dice with crew safety and garage fans.
Yeah.
You should check the spec sheet or contact PE Energy for a quote.
Get the numbers, see the airflow data, understand the voltage options, make an informed decision.
Because you don't want to find out you bought the wrong fan when the sparks start flying.
Definitely not. That is a lesson you only want to learn in theory, never in practice.
You know, as we wrap up, I'm left with this thought about the invisible infrastructure of our world. We walk onto a plane, we complain about the Wi-Fi or the snacks.
Guilty.
But we never see the thousands of hours of work or the specific yellow explosion-proof fans humming away in a hangar at 3 a.m. that actually made the flight possible.
It's humbling. The most critical tools are often the ones we never see.
And that is the deep dive for today. Next time you buckle your seatbelt, maybe give a little mental nod to the folks in the fuel tanks and the gear that keeps them safe. Thanks for listening.
Stay safe out there.